So welcome to Price Court's one of the first Q&A sessions. We're very excited as this is something that we've never done before, and we basically want to open that conversation about autism. So I'll be your host today. My name is Clare and I work with the Training and Recruitment Department. So who is Price Court? So we are a registered charity. So we provide support for young people with complex autism. They live on site with us. They go to school on site as well with us. And they are aged 5 to 25. We've got a big team, specialists in autism. So some of our panel, all of our panel today are specialists that support our young people. So why we're doing this today is as part of World Autism Acceptance Week. We're raising awareness and acceptance to many different through many different events and many different audiences. So we've been going out and about throughout the week as well as over the weekend just to talk about autism and have that conversation because it is actually everywhere. In regards to just some technicalities before we start, so we are recording this session for future purposes, especially educational, so for our partners that are schools, colleges and universities that are currently on Easter break. So we'll be sharing those afterwards with them. If you have any questions during this session, feel free to pop them in the Q&A or the group chat, and we'll try our best to answer them. But if not, we can always get back in touch as well. It is normal that you're on mute as well and no video, but if you would like to ask a question live, you can raise your hand like this. My hand is raised, and we can turn on your microphone as well as video for you. Throughout as well, feel free to react, so give us a thumbs up if you're happy with what we're saying, or laugh at our jokes if needed. So yeah. First of all, so our presenters will introduce themselves and then we'll go into the questions. I'll ask them and they'll discuss these from their own experiences. They have a lot of knowledge between them. Please bear in mind that obviously autism is a spectrum and each and every person with autism will be affected differently. So some of the examples or like the support that we may talk about today may be relevant and appropriate for some of our young people, for example, but maybe not others, as the spectrum is, there are as many autism as there are autistic people. So please just bear that in mind. I believe that's all for my introduction. So over to you, our specialist. Claire, would you like to start?
Sure. Hello, my name's Claire. I'm a Learning and Wellbeing Manager here at Price Court. I manage 2 homes within the young adult provision, which is where we support young people who are aged 19 to 25. I've been working at Price Court for about 15 years, and all of my autism experience it comes from working here. And as I mentioned, residential side, so I can talk to you about anything there.
Yeah. Maria?
Good morning. So I am Maria. I've worked at Price Court for the last 7 years, and I started as a support worker in one of our homes, and then because I'm a teacher, then I moved to the education department, and I've been working in class-based settings. I've also lost my words. I've also coordinated Keeping Me Safe, which is one of our learning areas of learning, which is all about PSHE, RSE, and everything that our young people need to know in order to be safe with us and in the community. And I also oversee lower school now. That's me.
Thank you, Maria. And Emma?
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm the learning specialist for PBS. So I've been at Price Court for about 4.5 years now, working in the positive behaviour support team. So we look at increasing the quality of life for our young people. And as a result, we hope to see the challenges and challenging behaviours decrease. And before working here, I've worked in schools. I've always worked with young people with autism.
Brilliant, thank you. So as you can see, a lot of knowledge just between the three of them. So the first question we wanted to discuss today that sort of popped up from the conversations we were having yesterday in our Q&A session was around, we talk a lot about the support and that, and obviously all our young people have individual plans, but we wanted to sort of touch base on how we with those individual plans, record progress as well as maybe make amendments. So Maria, maybe would you like to talk about that?
Yep. So whenever a young person joins us or moves from one stage to the other, so from lower school to upper school or to YAP, we set them icon statements, which are really small targets in each area. So for example, a young person in lower school might have 3 targets for numeracy, 3 targets for literacy, and they can go from, I can count from 1 to 3, to I can make marks with my hand for writing. We also have those icons for things like daily living skills, for healthiness. It could be I can drink a cup of water, or I can choose to have a piece of fruit instead of something unhealthy. And those icons have attached a level of prompt that we offer them, that people who are supporting them offer them. And those prompt levels go from experience recorded, which is basically we expose them to the activity, we give them access to the activity or the task. They do it, they watch us doing it. Then the next level will be physical prompt, which is physically helping them to do that with hand-over-hand support, for example. Then we have gestural prompt, which will be just a gesture or a point to what they have to do next. Then is communicated help, which is a verbal prompt. And then we go on to mastered, which means that with whatever tools we provide them in terms of the structure, the visual structure, or the physical structure, they're able to do it on their own. And whenever we assess them, we observe as teachers or as learning and well-being managers or PBS when they see that they've made progress enough to be able to achieve that target at that level. Then we mark it off. And we keep track of that in our database, and then we can see how many icons they've achieved at each prompt level. And that's what we use to not only to check that they're making progress academically, but to also know if somebody is making a lot of progress in healthiness, but not so much in education. Why is that happening? We review that every 6-8 weeks, and we know where they're at. And it might be that we have a young person who is struggling in terms of behavior, so we know that the academic side of things for a little bit might not show any progress, but then the PBS side of things will show progress. Or if they're not eating well and we really need them to eat well, then we will see an increase, or we will focus on that. So yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell. And the way we evidence that progress, because obviously our young people cannot take exams or produce any kind of tasks or formal tasks, we take photos. So each young person has a mobile phone that the staff member carries, and they take photos, they upload them to the system, and then we can, specialists like us, can go through and see that progress and tick it off.
Thank you, Maria. Did Emma or Claire, did you want to add on anything to that, or you're happy? Happy, brilliant. So from this, obviously all those different skills and support, how do you? Maybe the next question would be, how would we then make adjustments to support young people with autism with those sort of changes? So I don't know if Claire, you wanted to talk about that. So in regards to change, how we'd make adjustments?
Are you thinking transition changes or just changes in general?
Oh, like changes in general. So maybe there were because through their progress, they may be able to do something a bit, I don't know, more in depth now. So how would we support maybe young people with changes?
I think it goes back to kind of a lot of what we were talking about yesterday. So depending, obviously, what the change is, we'd be looking at making sure that's supported using visual structure, whether that's schedules or social stories. And I guess if it's sort of has something changed in their environment, or is it actually that the young person's learned some more skills and therefore we need to change the sort of the tasks and the activities that we've got set up for them to sort of continue increasing their skills. So those decisions are always made as a team, looking at sort of has the young person been able to sort of develop those skills and then use them in a range of areas. So, not just being able to do something in an education setting, but actually being able to do it in the residential setting, being able to transfer that skill off-site potentially, like yesterday when we talked about work placements. So making sure that, those skills are, able to be used in a range of places. And then obviously it's just going back to what Maria was saying about being able to record and evidence the progress that our young people are making, and sort of, working through that as a team.
Yeah, no, thank you. And sorry for the confusion. Yeah, I was sort of thinking as well in regards then to transitions, how obviously our young people, so for those of you that may not know, they stay with us from the moment they arrive till about 19 years old, and then they would need to apply again in a certain way to get to our young adult provision one day for 19 to 25. So they would have to graduation from prior school at 19 to 25, and therefore big transition. So Claire, you've been involved in some of these, haven't you?
Yeah, so transitions are obviously really, really big for our young people. And I'm sure it's something that's, within the autistic community, sort of that change of either leaving school or changing residence as well is really big, as it is for anybody. So there's a lot of things that we can do to support that. In terms of the young people we support, and I'm thinking of the homes that I support in, it's really as a sort of a team effort, because we want to be working with the new provision. Obviously, it starts off with sort of the local authorities and parents looking at what would be possible suitable future provisions. They would then assess. And then when a suitable provision has been found, we'd be working together as a team to build a transition plan for that young person, obviously involving them as much as possible, depending on sort of understanding and anxiety, because obviously a change is so huge, it can provoke a lot of anxiety. So it's making sure that that's done in a really sensitive way, supporting the young person to have a really positive experience. For lots of young people, we'll be using calendars, we might be using visuals to explain about visits to potential to future placements. We would be having staff from possible placements coming and spending time with the young people to get to know them and build those relationships to hopefully make that transition go as smoothly as possible. But it is completely individual. Some of those are really long transitions for young people that might need that. Some of those can be really short but intense transitions, again, for other young people. So we really build that around the young person with all those key people. So it would be key workers, your multidisciplinary team being involved, parents as well, because they may have experience of when young people have moved from one setting to another and what worked well. And we often reflect back on our young people moving through the school and how that went and what worked for them well, because some of our young people will start off with us in Giles House, which is our smallest little house, and they'll move several times through the school, living in with their peer group of a certain age. So some of our young people may have moved 3 or 4 times by the time that they actually leave us. And that's really useful, because then we can help us to understand what's been successful when they've moved in the past and how we can support them to make that smooth as possible. We will also, if it's possible, go and support our young people when they move to their new placement and either spend a day or potentially a night with them to help them settle in and get used to being in their new environment. So we try and offer as much as possible to make those transitions go really smoothly. And all the work that we do within the young adult provision is with the aim of giving our young people as many tools as possible to be as independent as possible in their future provisions. We're always thinking about their future adult life and how the things that we can do now will support them to have, a really successful life.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just saw a question pop up, I think related to that. Have we had any cases where the young people haven't been able to secure a transition placement, and how do we support the family and the young person if this happens?
That's a really, really good question, and definitely something that does happen. It's the adult placements are, it can be a challenge, and it's obviously an incredibly anxious time for the families of our young people. We start off that conversation quite early, and we recognise that, if families, it's good to have a sense of what's out there and know where they sort of want our young people to go after leaving us. So we do have that conversation quite regularly, and sort of we've got a transition manager called Anya, who's got a really good sort of sense of what's out there, what placements are available, and what might be suitable for the young people who are due to leave soon. If they aren't able to secure a transition placement, obviously that becomes something that the local authority are managing quite closely, and we do everything we can support to make that possible. We hope that we would obviously know that sooner rather than later, because it's such a big thing for the young person. But we have had transitions fall through at short notice due to things that are outside of our control or the control of the future placement, and then obviously we do our best to support the young people, and whether that means that we can extend their placement with us for a short amount of time. Obviously, that's not a decision that I can make, but it's something that goes to, is made in the best interest of the young person to make sure that, they can have the safest possible transition. So we try and avoid that as much as possible by all the pre-work that we do, and by getting, those conversations rolling quickly. I've got a young person at the moment who potentially might leave us a year earlier than planned because a suitable placement has come up, and that's 100% the right thing, because that placement that he's going to go to will be his placement for life, hopefully. And it's much more important that he would get that space that's going, because it might not be available in a year's time. So we would always encourage that, although it's sad to see them leave. We know that it's going to be a positive thing for them in the long run.
Thank you. I don't know if any of the other two you wanted to add on to anything of that. No, I'm happy with that. Brilliant. No, thank you. It was a good conversation around transitions, which is obviously, like you say, so important. So, that was the next question I thought I'd pop in there, and that was more of a follow-up from a visit that we did on Monday with nursing students, in regards to when obviously we need to support our young people with medical appointments that may be outside, most likely to be outside of the setting, what sort of support we have around that. I don't know which one of you is more comfortable with that one.
I'm happy to go, but I'm sure everybody here has got experience supporting with that, so we can all chime in. I think thinking about the pre-work that we can do on site, there's so much. We're so lucky to have, we've got what we call our health and wellbeing hub, which has got a treatment room, so we can start off by exposing our young people to sort of that setting, and that is hugely beneficial. So it might be that young people could come down and just visit the treatment room once a week, just to get used to anything. It could be doing a pretend hearing test. It could be we did recently built up to a dentist visit for one of our young people. So he went down and sat in the chair, practiced opening his mouth, having his teeth brushed, and then it meant when the dentist actually came, he was really able to tolerate that, because it was something that we'd practiced. In terms of thinking of going off-site for those visits, it obviously is completely different, because it's a much less controlled environment for us. I think one thing that's really supportive for us is when we've been to local hospitals that have had a learning a specialist nurse who's been able to support us, and we've got links with our local hospitals, which is really useful, because they're able to sort of support us. And I think it's just sort of being able to sort of plan for the unexpected, so making sure that our young people can understand that there will be a slight wait potentially, but then on the flip side of that, trying to minimise that wait as much as possible, just to avoid anxiety. And as we've said before, making sure we're using visuals, making sure that we've got motivating items. If we do have to wait, how are our young people feeling engaged during that time? If they've got a favourite item, a book, an iPad, something like that, that's going to keep them motivated. And I think it's about having key people supporting those visits as well, who know the young people and are able to, have the positive engagement with them, but also advocate on their behalf if they're not able to do that for themselves as well. And obviously involving parents and other key professionals in that, so that everybody understands, what's going on and feels involved. Yeah. Emma and Maria, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think, like you say, everybody's sort of so accommodating, aren't they? Like, often if you make contact, they can sneak you in. There's always another entrance or whatever to sort of cut walking past people. Making sure that parents can be involved. It's their children at the end of the day. So even if they're not able to make it, then with technology now, is getting them on the screen and so that they're a part of that conversation as well. But yeah, I think, like you say, all the prep and stuff that's gone into it. We've had some fantastic successes recently with, young people having blood pressure taken, which is so important for some of the medications that they're on and the complexities of their diagnoses.
Yeah, and as I've probably said before, our young people always blow us away. I've had young people, need to go for really complex treatments, and we've made, visuals and like you said, going in and a fire exit before to avoid having to walk down miles and miles of corridor. We were able to come in through sort of a back door and just go straight into the theatre that we needed to be in, making sure that our young people understand that there's something really, really exciting and fun to do after the appointment is always really helpful as well, because it just helps you to be able to refocus on that. I can't stress enough that visuals, how important they are. I've had young people sort of who halfway through a blood test have sort of gone, oh, I'm not too sure about this, and we've been able to just show the visuals again, calmly say, okay, we're at this stage, we've just got to do one more bit and then it's going to be finished. And they've been able to sort of nod and show us that they were willing to continue and that they did understand what was going on. And then the blood test was successful. So, we've had young people who haven't had immunisations since they were teeny tiny babies, who at the age of 20 were able to have some vaccinations, which is just amazing, given sort of the challenges that they've been through in their lives. So it does work and it does pay off, and it's amazing when that happens.
Brilliant, thank you. I just wanted to add to that, it was the whole, when obviously we had all the COVID vaccinations, there was so much worries, I think, in terms of who's going to be able to have one, who's going to be able to have two. And it turned out we had such a good success rate, and it was fantastic to see. It was really fun as well, seeing all the support workers, our autism practitioners supporting the young people with different motivating items, different depending on our young people. So yeah, this is where all that individuality that we keep talking about really comes into play. So brilliant. Thank you. So I'm quite aware that we're sort of, this is the end of that sort of short session. Did you have anything else to add and sort of close that sort of conversation? Or are you happy with it? Yeah, brilliant. Thumbs up. So thank you for, thank you all for attending or for listening, for those of you listening to our recording. It's really important for us to take part in raising awareness and acceptance on autism, so having those conversations, even if it's a little bit at a time, but would be more than grateful to have more. So if you have any more questions or anything more that you would like to know, our first source of information is definitely our website, where you can find more information on what we do, but also our history. So more specifically, our education and residential provisions as well, how you can help improve our young people's lives as well. There's lots of ways that you can support us, which I'll go on to in a minute. You can also find some of our research studies from our research board that covers a range of topics as well. We have news and events on what we have been up to, as well as planned for the future. Obviously, we have vacancies as well. So if you're looking for a change of career or would like a different challenge to make a difference in our young people's life, you can also subscribe to our newsletter. If it's something more specific that I'd like to have a chat about, please email us at the email on the screen, and we can transfer that to the correct person. Any feedback as well that you may have about this presentation, on things that we could improve on, please do get in touch. Like I say, it's one of the first ones that we're doing, so we'd be very grateful for these. anything else, if you are interested to support us, there are many ways you can do that. Obviously, by donating to us, we are a charity, and no matter how big or small that donation, we'll be very grateful. Or feel free to follow us and share our social media content to expand our network. You can also set yourself a challenge and raise funds for us. So at the weekend, we have quite a lot of runners running marathon and raising funds for us on that. So you can, again, all of that is on the website. So I would invite you to see our website. You can also do corporate volunteering. There's loads of opportunities out there. So thank you again for attending today and for listening. Thank you to our brilliant presenters. Very grateful to have given that time today. So thank you, and see you later all.